Hey, family, because that's what you all are to me at this point. Family, good morning. How you doing? Yeah, pretty sure it's not good. For those of you that are negatively affected right now, income-wise, we are in the thralls of yet another lockdown. For those of you like myself that are going through other personal issues, mentally or physically and emotionally, that are debilitating. Those of you that are becoming scared, nervous, anxious, despondent, those of you that expected people to be there for you and feeling abandoned, to all of you, those of you that are happy and normal and great for the vacation, your money is unencumbered, those of you that feel righteous because you saw that the lockdown was coming because of the bad behavior of people. To all of you, I say good morning. It would be funny if I had say fuck you, but that would just be for laughs. That would just be for laughs. Sincerely, good morning, and I know that the sentiment for when you now wake up may not be prevalent right now. It certainly isn't for me, but you're here, and what I'm trying to do is accept. There isn't anything else that can be done, as I see it. Nobody is brave enough to do anything different. There's no common consensus on what needs to be done. So, in the absence of that, just go with the flow. And it's really better to not resist. Whatever your individual needs are, please find a way to meet it. If it's financial, if it's emotional, if it's psychological, take care of yourself. Because unfortunately, that is the reality of the times that we are in. And I will extend, and I have extended, and you do know, the closer people to me that subscribe, that if there's anything that I can do, I will be there. I am not one to say the cases are spiking or it's raining or I'm not feeling too. The only time I will not be there is if I am actually incapable of. So just do your best. Do your best. All you can do is your best. Just do your best. And other than that, I'm seeing that the only other thing to do is to accept the reality of the situation. All we can do. And take there isn't an and, no? It just is. A lot of people actually I'll continue from my psyche, I suppose. It's not my heart or my soul, it's not anything that emotional, but my psyche. Over the weekend, Netflix launched many things as they always do. But the one thing that I watched was Jupiter's Legacy. And Jupiter's Legacy is a code. These five or six strangers, obviously, it's kind of like Justice League inspired. They were able to pass some supernatural test and attain supernatural gifts. And in doing so, they developed a code that since they are the most powerful beings on earth, they will not kill anybody and they will not govern. Their role would always be support. But in the time of the movie, the issue is that they are no longer the only persons with supernatural gifts, albeit hereditary or mechanical. And as such, they feel as though the playing field is leveled and they should be allowed to kill, especially to defend themselves. But the head, Jupiter, is fighting against it. And it's very powerful because it's understandable. You shouldn't kill and all that if you're the most powerful person. You bear this ton of responsibility. But I couldn't help but apply it to our current situations as well, in that how do you know when it's time to modify? Because modification of said code in itself is destruction of not only the code, but everything it stood for and everybody that believed in it and everything that it could be. But keeping it could also destroy the actual people that are uplifting it. So, how do you balance flexibility with necessity? And that is how it is. That's what I saw when I looked at that as it relates to our current circumstances. Someone asked me what would my plan be? And although I have set some plans ad hoc, my official answer is that that's not my job. I don't have the necessary tools or resources to adequately make that decision. But I do have the adequate tools and resources to know that locking down just for the cases to plateau or dissipate or diminish is not the answer. And at the time of doing this rant, there's a hoopla over the virus, COVID being airborne. And again, I don't understand where the hoopla is. This is a virus, and it was always airborne. Because it's not airborne like the common cold. It's airborne in terms that it can live on surfaces for a specific amount of time, especially if there's moisture on that surface, and it could be transmitted through the air. That was the entire purpose of forcing us to mask our faces. In that, if you're too close, a little droplet and whatnot from one person to the other through the air. So I'm not entirely sure if that news release, if I am missing something, if something was added or modified or upgraded, or if it's just still people trying to get advertising revenue even in these times, which I can't even be angry at them for, because my rhetoric is that it's either life is going to go on or it's going to cease to exist. And if it's going to go on, we need to preserve and prepare for the future as well. We need to preserve the present as best as possible and prepare for the future as well. So, I'm not sure where that came from. A lot of people are comparing us to India. They are even stating per capita we are as bad as India. And to those people, I want you to understand that India is fine. And I know that that sounds ridiculous, but the total percentage of India's population that is infected with COVID at the time of doing this recording is 6%. Let's up it to 10%. Do you know that that means that the vast, overwhelming majority does not have it? And in addition to that, of the 6% that had it, the over 250,000 or just under 250,000 that died still represents 1% of the total cases that are active. And while the world is crying for India, India is moving as normal. India is moving as normal. Apart from the news coverage and all of that, India is functioning. So much so that the judiciary and the opposition, those kind of people are demanding that the government puts an active lockdown in place. And my question to that is that, given the situation that's going on and how the world is bleeding for India, why would the government need to put a lockdown in place for people to stay home and be socially distant? And what gives the Supreme Court or the opposition the right to try to pressure the government into doing that when it seems clearly the government is doing what the people want? They are still allowing movements, they have introduced some measures, and they are looking towards economic recovery. What and there isn't a law stating that you have to go out. But the people are going out. They see the news, they know the news, they know what is going on. There isn't any news coming for the average Indian saying, please, we need a lockdown, or being forced to go to work or harassed or something like that. Leave the people. They understand. They have made their choice. They are making their choices. We can't seek validation for our fear in other people doing something contradictory to what we think is right. Anyway, see Uncle Gigi walking around talking to my grocery owners, and I recognize one of them there from the Charlottes, telling them something about putting stickers on the ground. Putting stickers on the ground for what? All the people that in the Charlotte Street groceries is all the people that are around each other all the time. They don't have nothing. They don't have nothing. They don't have nothing. They'd have no contact case back to any grocery on Charlotte Street. I don't even know what he walking around for. Or why it is the target in this Independence Square, because they are saying cry. There's a personal issue. I spend the whole of Saturday crying because I can't go anywhere and I feel entrapped. That's a personal issue. It'll have a bunch of crimes and murders and stuff still to be solved. Get your ass down with Paddy Vennies and them coming in with the variants. Say, what you doing walking around Charlotte Street for? The Brazilian strain didn't come from back to basic supermarket. And talking nonsense about how it is, what is the point in having people congregating outside and only letting in a few people? Exactly. That exactly. So let your de-housing deal with that. Yes? And again, let them contact trace to how much people was there. Solve the equation as to how 7 people on BP oil rig have it. What did they do? Did they interact with people? Somebody come off of a boat? Were they recently went to work from the mainland? How did they get it? Tell me about the research that was done whereby they tested 5,000 people and they didn't have it, and they let them congregate and have a party, and then they test them after and they didn't have it, and then they test them 2 weeks later and they didn't have it. Tell me about situations like that. But then you print a story with people in the on their deathbed saying that they partied. Okay, all right. So how come nobody else in the party dying with them or sick? It means that we're missing something. It means that life go on. It means that maybe you have a genetic predisposition to die from COVID, a 1% chance. It means maybe it's not just comorbidities, and that is the same for everything else. Don't black people have a higher percentage of dying from sickle cell? Don't Indian people have a higher chance of becoming addicted to stuff and suicide? These are normal things that we already have the science for. But you crying, I don't care that you crying. You have $40,000 a month, give or take, to help dry your tears. You don't care about nobody. If you had care about people, you would have been talking about economic recovery. You would have been telling the nurses and the doctors and whatnot to stop talking nonsense like it's a privilege for them to be working right now and inspire them to do their job. It's not Gary supposed to be walking around frightening people. It's you supposed to be walking around inspiring people. You supposed to be making daily visits to the hospitals and the parallel healthcare system and them kind of thing. You are a trained, proper medical certified doctor, but you ain't doing nothing. I want to see a photo of you holding a oxygen mask over somebody's face. Then I would be empathetic or sympathetic to your tears. But I don't give a shit. And nobody listening to this shit either. If you want to cry, you are a listener to this podcast and you want to cry, you cry for you. But what he asked the Elsing tears had to do with you. And then Uncle Gigi talking about what the police cannot send you home, duh, but they could influence. So you deliberately deploying our resources in a time when we don't have any money, right? In a time when just before COVID they was talking about making police officers pay for the gas for the vehicles that they drive in. All of a sudden we have the funds for them to play the ass on the highway to antagonize innocent citizens into going back home. Now is the time for them to keep their ass in the station and to take stock of the drop in crime rate because of the lockdown and solve some of the crimes that they have outstanding. Now is the time for them to figure out what the ass going on with the certificate of good character. So when the lockdown up, people could get the certificate and get back to work. That is what they're supposed to be doing. Now is the time for them to be talking about streamlining the police service. Now is the time for them to be saying things like why it is the police can't get work from home, why they don't have computers in the police station. Now is the time for those things, not to be antagonizing innocent people. If I want to take a drive in my fucking car, I should take a drive in my fucking car. It's my car, my gas. I pay in gas tax. I pay in VAT. I pay in road tax. I didn't have no way for me to go anyway. But I had to answer you for what? And then again, the Prime Minister crying too because what? Oh, people lying. The same for the Elsing is the same thing that will go for him for me. Yes, in times of adversity, the people should see you. Walk around. Alright, okay, it's COVID, yada yada yada. Okay. If it was important to you like elections, you asked to be walking around. In the last elections, we had COVID and the numbers spiked right after. Your ass was on all kind of big truck and all kind of walk around and all kind of meet and greet. Now it's supposed to be important to you. Walk around. Inspire the people. Listen to them. Give them hope. All that is part of being a leader. Not just telling people what to do. No, you're not a parent. It's inspiring them to do the best that they can do. Always. That is leadership. At the time of recording this, 324 people are newly infected and 5 die, and that's the headline, and they're crying. Last I checked, 10% of 324. So it should be more than 10%. 10% of, no, I'm sorry, my math's way off. 10% of 300 would be 30. So 10% of 324 should be 32.4. So if 5 die, that is not even 5%. Come in to think of it. But it is higher than the usual less than 1%. I'll give them that. It's higher than the usual 1%, but it's still less potent than the failures of birth control. So again, then there was this whole situation too with all these nurses that's not permanent. That's something to address. How it is you go have me risking my life on a temporary or contractual basis? Come on, man. Give the people some job security. Unless this is the end, well then you're volunteering as a suicide situation. The next one the next two things that stood out really is the papers was thick today, I must say, but it didn't really have a lot of substance. It was a lot of repetition over and over and over. Even the statistics with India, I had to go on Google and verify my damn self because it had no statistics in the papers. It's just people dying and the photos and the images of the mass graves and all this kind of thing, right? So the it was thick, but it wasn't really substance. For example, that article with the 7 people on the oil rig, it had no they talk about how BP restricting the task and the duties and all of that, but it didn't have any explanation as to how they get it. It had no explanation as to the Brazilian variants and all of that. It had no explanation or no update as to what the Ministry of National Security doing with the borders. There was nothing to say as to how they're protecting the police that in Santa Flora and Icacos and these areas that are being exposed to the virus from the illegal immigration. It have nothing to talk about. If it is you're deploying your police to influence, let them influence Icacos and these places where the borders porous. Let them influence their ass down there, not on the highway and on the bus route. They have no update as to how the station's getting sanitized or what's the plan for these officers. If their family under quarantine, if any of them have children that do an SEA, what is the decision or that those families make for the child? If it is they're going to defer, they're going to do it. No kind of follow up like that. Just a bunch of cut and paste shit with fears and doom and gloom and Dial Sing say and Rowley say. So you pick your sense out of nonsense as best as possible. The business community continuing to do what it is I begging all of you and all of us to do. Look forward. And they putting things in place. They're making the money, they're making the deals, they're having the profits, they're having the losses as normal. Um, uh, America is opening back up at this time. The borders are supposed to be open, if I remember correctly. And what going on with them is that they have very high unemployment. And I find that to be scary because America already with $1 trillion in debt, and all they just do is make more money. I don't know if they just literally just create it, like print it, or if they just, I don't understand how they just do what they just do. And I mean, many people don't. Not even the elections doesn't make complete sense. So the fact that they have a history of just bailing out people and whatever have you, to hear that many sectors of their economy are saying that they cannot afford to rehire workers or to keep the workers that they have is concerning. And I'm wondering how that would trickle into us, into Jamaica. But I don't know if our leaders would actually take note of that because honestly, in my opinion, they just real going off on this power trip and that male ego real out of control right now. And it you see it out of control too because it working in the background. They're not conscious of it, it working in the background and justifiable with all the other circumstances. So they ain't even picking up on it. They ain't even picking up on it. But unfortunately, it is what it is. What else can I say? As I said before, it really just is what it is. There was a lot of discrepancies with the lockdown and all of that. For example, public transport is supposed to be at 50%, but taxi drivers are still keeping it at 75%. Um, and PriceSmart and stores like PriceSmart got the undivided attention of the government because the government only wants them to sell food. You can't sell anything else because they say that with everywhere else closed, people congregating at places like PriceSmart and that could. And it's like if people congregating at places like PriceSmart that sell other stuff besides food, then it means that they have other needs besides food. And clothing, for example, is a basic human right. At the time of recording this rant, I need new drawers. and I do not know where I am going to get it. I decided to Google how Jesus used to tie up his situation and sit down with it. I did go on TTV through, sorry, I did go on TTV through Port of Spain on Saturday, and it had no way for me to buy a dress. And fortunately, the bakery was open. I appreciated that. But my concern was that how exactly is Pennywise more essential than the clothing department in PriceSmart? I wouldn't necessarily say let's just open up retail clothing stores. That's a lot, and people will have to shop around and all kind of thing. But if it is you have conglomerates that sell other stuff, yeah. And as a matter of fact, you could encourage them to even have little sections to the businesses that close that selling clothing and apparel. We're not saying, fabric for upholstery and although maybe even all of that, because if people at home and you could upholster a chair or sew a curtain or something. I don't know. I just hope this time that they really make sure everybody have the things that they need to survive. The last time people didn't have mental health medication, they didn't have cancer medication, they didn't have HIV medication. So I just hope that right now that it have more in the healthcare system than unhappy workers that feeling entitled and paracetamol and Panadol. And again, it is what it is. Each one help one. And let us just talk some facts. It is possible in the duration of your lifetime, you will get COVID. It is possible that you may die from COVID. And you have to put all of that possibility in all of the other possible ways that you can die. You can purchase food from someone and get food poisoning. You can develop an allergic reaction. You can go on a hike and something could bite you. You could cross the road and get run over. It could have a storm, a hurricane, an earthquake, a car accident, a violent crime, a robbery. It is no more than an additional way for you to possibly leave this earth. Embrace it. Learn what to do if you get it. It is just a very bad, potentially lethal virus. That is all. Get your vaccine if you're comfortable with it and try to maintain a positive disposition and to be positive for everyone that you could be positive to. Because we need you, we need each other, and we really need the best of each other right now. So I thank you sincerely for listening and tuning in to this edition of Richard's Rant. And please leave your thoughts, your advice, your inspiration in the comments. Subscribe to the vibe and comment towards our betterment. Vibes.